Hello and welcome to our webinar, Success of Paper-lite Strategies in the Legal Sector. Good morning to you all. It's a pleasure to be back with another webinar with the legal sector. It has been a while, but that's very much due to busyness because, as you will hear from our presenter, Dean Francis, in a moment, the legal sector has really embraced electronic document processes and tech in general, in fact, in a huge way this past year. DCS, we've worked on some projects that we're really pleased with, and our particular focus on the legal sector now culminates in first this webinar today, and then in 2 weeks today we will be exhibiting for the first time at the British Legal IT Forum in London. That's Europe's largest legal technology exhibition, and that should be a lot of fun. Lots of exhibitors competing for the attention of lawyers, associates and practice managers, etc. And quite a good event to be attending. With that in mind, actually, we've got a free VIP delegate pass worth £245 plus VAT, I'm told. We've got that as a giveaway today for one live attendee of this webinar. So thank you for attending, and it could be you. We'll come back to that a little later. So in a moment I'll hand over to Dean for the main presentation, which should be about half an hour, give or take, plus a little bit of Q&A at the end. You will hear from me again part way in as we do a little poll, which we often do on these webinars, and again at the end as we deal with any questions that come in during the webinar. And for that, I should draw your attention to a questions box, which you should see probably on the right of your screen. If anything occurs to you that you would like to ask during this, then do please put your question in the box. I'll be monitoring that while Dean's presenting, and then I will I'll sort of facilitate that Q&A with those questions that come in at the end, and I'll put those questions to Dean on your behalf. And of course, at the as well, just after we've dealt with that bit, we will make the draw for that place at the British Legal IT Forum in 2 weeks' time. So with that all done, I shall now hand you over to Dean for the main presentation. Good morning, Dean.
Again, it seems to be, whilst it's electronic, it's as much of a problem still. People are still printing out emails and attachments, either filing those in hard copy or even scanning those back in and manually index those into case management, practice management systems. So again, whilst it's electronic, it still doesn't seem to be the most efficient medium. These days we can be more confident of getting down to the brass tacks instead of preaching and converted about digitisation. Many, if most legal firms are scanning in some way, shape or form. So it's not a matter of now a matter of maximising the potential offered by the capture of inbound documents and routing them to the correct systems and to the people, and making best use of the time from the fee earners and administrators. So the next couple of things we're going to see is courtesy of a 2016 Legal Innovation report by Raconteur, which quotes multiple sources. Firstly, a visualisation of how both law firms and in-house legal departments, so those within the big banks, for example, expect technology and innovation to impact their work environment in terms of replacing manual systems or existing platforms, and up to and including the newest developments of artificial intelligence in research and decision making. Some of these new technologies, for example, will be automated workflows, replacement of case management systems, document storage, and something that you may be aware of, which is again fairly new to a lot of people, is robotic process automation. And we will touch on that very briefly later in the webinar. But it's quite interesting to see that if combined 58% of law firms expect a high level of replacement or medium levels of replacement. So that's the impact that technology and innovation will cover. So there's also a list of the most frequently outsourced functions by law firms. This is a bit of a surprise actually, because what we found internally is that a lot of law firms look to implement the infrastructure on their own premises, so they have control over the documentation. So it's something that we offer both in-house and an outsourced solution, so which is good for the business. But here are circled some of the key areas, and mailroom, and generally print output and copy is one. Document processing, highlighted in red are the functions also that are typically part of a wider digital program, and these encompass out to sort of back office functions, as we refer to them, as sort of HR type processes, financial processes, financial close, invoice processing, and route and approval of invoices, especially if that's across multiple sites. There's also another report, which is an extract from a Bellwether report in 2016, and certain references have been made to taking on non-fee earners in the interest of efficiency, so to maximise those technology investments and unburden fee earners of processing tasks. It's quite interesting to see that these are some of the things that we've been proposing and recommending, that by digitising the mailroom, all information could be captured in one place and potentially a centralised location. Adding intelligence to the extraction process and the validation of documents, and feeding these documents directly into your back-end systems, where fee earners can have this pre-indexed, ready and available for them to work on, rather than taking time finding documents, pushing documents around the organisation, and physically maybe pulling them out of filing cabinets, which still happens to this day. So therefore, the focus of the webinars like this one is to concentrate on suggesting of new ways of doing it, many of which are already tried and tested among the technical pioneers of this sector. So capture to process. A lot of people today in law firms are doing some form of scanning. We're seeing this, although there's a lot of manual indexing. So the capture to process requirement now is to capture information on arrival and receipt into the firm. So whether that is traditionally hard copy, but again, as I mentioned, it could be email, it could be from a mobile capture device, and having that data extracted directly into the process and pushed into the case management systems, and already linked to that record and available. It could also mean it's linked into an EDM, so an electronic document management system, and I'm sure the legal sector is more than familiar with that term. And it's feeding that information and linking that to those documents are available to those people that need access to them. So who has the responsibility for front-end scanning? Again, sometimes that depends on the firm themselves, the departments that are doing it, but more and more so we're seeing now with our current customers and prospects about taking this right at the front end to the mailroom and capturing this information at the mailroom, getting that scanned in or brought in electronically, and applying those rules to the process, feeding that straight through to the back-end system. There's a strong case for having non-fee earners doing this. So again, high value personnel need to be doing something like working on the cases, liaising with customers and speaking with clients, rather than keying of information. We can always make this any authorized information available to anyone that's authorised across the firm. So wherever they're working from, effectively you could be working from an office in Bristol, and it doesn't stop you viewing documents that are arriving into your London office. And it's very much now about pushing information regardless. There's so much home working, remote working, and working at different locations now. It's important and critical to get information as and when you need it. Law firms are, as I mentioned a minute ago, looking at centralising receipt of posts, depending on the type of business that you deal with. A lot of firms sometimes like the local touch point and having a local address. Again, not a problem. Scanning can be carried out from a local office, but centralised into the main systems and a core infrastructure in the back end. But the same processes can be applied in the quality to the document, so it's still delivered electronically into the case management system or other platforms for onward processing. I'm just going to hand back over to James now. You mentioned there's a poll. We'd just be really keen to get your feedback on where you are so far in your current digital process.
Yes, I'll be interested to see the results from this, because quite often, up to and including middle of last year, we were finding with a similarly worded poll that people were in really very early stages of scanning their documents, and perhaps not even in a capture to process at all. I'd be interested to see whether that's progressed, and by means of this poll, I'd be grateful for your assistance. So, how is your incoming paper document data dealt with when it arrives into the company? Now, is it by minimal scanning, whereby you're routinely inputting the data manually to your case management systems later? Do you scan ad hoc? The data gets through to case management systems, but again, it's via manual input rather than any automation. Do you scan it on receipt, and then it gets later on linked to your case management system? Again, it's largely a manual process. Or is there any automation going on at the mailroom point, as we might call it, whereby document data gets made actionable by passing through to case management systems via a automated or a semi-automated process? So if we can just deploy the poll where you can actually respond to this. So and I'll give you obviously half a minute or so. Minimal scanning is routinely input manually whenever you can manage it, kind of thing. Ad hoc scanning, perhaps only the most important arriving paper documents, again via manual input. Scanned on receipt, but still manual input as far as getting to the case management systems are concerned. Or is anyone venturing to full mailroom automation, i.e. automation and validation process of that data from paper into the case management system? If you could give us an indication as to where you're at in that spectrum, if you like. I'll give you a few more seconds, perhaps 10 more seconds. I can see we've got quite a lot of responses already come in, so thank you for that. And Dean, take a look at that. That's quite an interesting response, isn't it?
Yeah, okay, that is so we'll just feed. I'm not sure if you can see those. We can feed back those results.
See if we can deploy it.
We'll see if we can just deploy this on screen so you can see. But if not, in the meantime, while we're doing that, we're seeing that actually a large proportion, so about 80% of there we go. So about 80% are still minimal scanning or ad hoc scanning. And again, what we're seeing more with the ad hoc scanning is probably documents are being routed physically up to departments and teams, and a lot of that scanning is actually being done with MFD, multifunction devices, and literally just done there and processed and pushed through, which takes up a lot of time. There are some people that are moving more on to scanning everything on receipt, and this is the area that we're now seeing a lot more traction, where people are getting information in at the earliest point possible in the process. And we have obviously 8% that are looking at either running full automation and using technology to look for matter numbers, addresses, and that. So that's good. Thanks very much for that. That's of interest. So just moving on to the next slide on the capture, and it's a terminology you may be familiar with, which is called omni-channel, as opposed to multi-channel. So multi-channel means that you can receive documents from multiple different formats, emails, faxes, web, and process those in a certain fashion, and not necessarily via one platform. Omni-channel now takes us to a new perspective, where we can capture from all these devices but still process them through one system. So we can apply the same rules, the same information, the same validation, and pass these through one particular system. So what we can do is that we capture this information via, say, multiple scanners, could be based at centrally or remote locations. This information they'll clean up with image enhancement, We'll then go through a process of verification or validation. So it's looking up against information that's held in your case management, practice management systems, and it's trying to do some sort of match. It's looking for the format of your matter number, it's looking for a name and address, maybe looking from the firm that it was sent in from, and we're trying to link this to a particular record in the case management system where it can then be routed on to the fee earner. All documents captured are verified. We use the global market-leading Kofax platform, which does most of the legwork and really just pushing into for a human operator to confirm if anything needs verifying, or an incorrect matter number has been found, or maybe there's a duplication for that matter. Once that process has been done, the information and the image, or a link to the image, can then be sent back to most of, or nearly all cases, some of your back-end case management systems. Typical ones may be iManage, WorkSite, Proclaim, and ones we're seeing more recently, such as Peppermint. The document can also be stored into your EDM system, where the physical image can be linked from the case management, or it can be accessed directly into something like a SharePoint. We have our own application called FileStore, where documents can be pulled and retrieved. Another interesting element from capture now is from mobile devices. We're seeing quite a bit of interest from this, where fee earners and workers are more field-based or going out to see customers, and they don't really want to take documents away with them, so whether it's sort of a proof of ID or important documentation. So it's now having the ability to capture this information in a controlled and secure manner and feed this again back into the process as quickly as possible. Information's not held on the device, it sends it automatically as long as there's a signal. If not, it's held encrypted within the app, and then as soon as connection's available, it automatically send the information. So if you're visiting clients and customers and you can gather documents while you're with them, it's just another way to speed up the data onboarding in a secure, controlled manner. Something else that we've seen recently, again from law firms over the last sort of year to 2 years, is the ability to look at documents before they hit a case management system. So whether they need other things to be dealt with, or whether it's a case of viewing the documents for complaints, or just post check-in. So we have an application called Mail Manager. And whether this is for case-related information or non-case related information, what it allows you to do is feed documents into a queue via a web-based application securely, and we can give notifications back to the fee earners or the relevant member of staff that you've actually received post that's coming via the mailroom or coming via some dedicated inboxes. So it can be used as a notification or an approval mechanism before data is submitted into the case management system. It can also be dealt with other things for sort of HR. So again, more on the non-case related side for HR, for onboarding. Could also be used for things like change of address forms or even invoice approval. Why are firms using this? Well, where you naturally have an end-to-end process where information is captured into your case management systems, there are other functions within a firm, excuse me, other functions within the firm where there's maybe not necessarily a dedicated application, so maybe for complaints. So it's a way of keeping all posts in an electronic format that can be managed, audited, and pushed down a process which can be reviewed and tracked by anybody that needs access to that information. Once these documents have been processed, again, they can be fed into back-end systems exactly the same as if they were going through the mailroom process and straight into the back-end. And again, there's release mechanisms to do that into not just case management systems, but finance systems, HR systems, CRM systems, so the typical back-end applications that you'll be using on a day-to-day basis. So what are the benefits that are realised by Paper-lite and digital mailrooms? It's about accessing and sharing information, so no rifling through paper files, authorised access from any location. So once it's in a digital format, other people can get access to that information. Improving client satisfaction. Cases are resolved quicker, customer experiences are higher, because a degree of responsiveness all throughout the process, just by able to getting access to that information. And it aids collaboration, so people can get information as and when they need it from an electronic format. One thing that we do see as well with people, that if you do this within your organisation around fixed fee, it's about getting these cases through much quicker, more efficient, more effective, taking less touch points out of these cases and just churning these around, and allow you to deal quickly with the higher value, bigger cases. Document security is another one. Obviously, it's in electronic format rather than paper. These things can be then backed up as far as your IT infrastructure. And we're also seeing now a lot of customers that are coming to the firms and saying, we really don't want our information being taken off-site, you know, which hinders the amount of time that can be spent, because they're not allowed to be taking the files off-site of an evening and weekends. It's just something now that firms are a little bit hesitant about and not so keen now. So hard copy documents now really becoming sort of thing that need to be kept on-premise, digitised, and then accessed through the case management systems. And data and compliance, obviously now improving of information, full audit trails, end-to-end. You can prove when information came in and where it is stored. Digital courtrooms originally proposed that was going to be in place by the end of 2016, more likely to be 2018 through to 2020 now, but the Ministry of Justice committing to making it happen, and we're already seeing this process being started with the digital case files. One other benefit, obviously now when you walk into law firms, there's a lot of filing cabinets around, so is there a need to maybe digitise these files now, put these into the case management files and release this floor space for more revenue generating activities instead of having the physical space taken up just with filing cabinets. As we said earlier, digital courtrooms now will be coming in. Reality is that it's moving slower than probably expected, but again in time it will happen, and there'll be more and more paperless courts in the future, I'm sure. Whilst it's not a key driver for most organisations, we mustn't forget that disaster recovery and business continuity is a real key aspect. So being able to back up that information, storing it electronically, retrieving that information again is really important. It should allow you also to, in some cases, to shred the paper securely. So again, you're not adding to your stores, you're not adding to your filing cabinets. So just moving on to a couple of typical use cases and how these are being used. And one's from a smaller law firm, and we'll talk about one on a slightly a larger scale on what they're achieving. So the small law firm at the moment are physically taking the physical documentation. They're scanning in their information through dedicated scanners. They're passing it through the Kofax platform to do a lookup against a matter file, matter number, customer number, addresses, and doing a match against a record. So they'll do a best possible match, and when it's 100% accurate and confident that it can do a link, it will pass those matches and replace that information back into the matter file, into the case management systems. Where it needs some sort of validation, so not sure on the matter number, or there's a query, it will pass it to somebody that's got that knowledge to be able to make that decision, and then just push that through the system. Certain rules can be applied again to quicken up the process, such as the format of your matter numbers, so it's only looking for those on any one document or across multiple pages. Just extending this out to a sort of a larger implementation that we carried out recently. Both documents, scanned documents and emails are being brought into the Kofax platform, and again, where they're being dealt with via the Kofax platform, applying certain business rules, looking for keywords, again looking for the matter numbers, and in their scenario they're having 3 different systems that they need to push this data into. Also, the Mail Manager application that we mentioned earlier, they're using that excuse me, for looking for words such as complaint, dissatisfied, unhappy. This information can then be pushed to the compliance teams, who can continue with their work while the fee earner still receives their paperwork and can carry on with the case. So there's no delays in the process, and compliance rules are being met. Longer term, it reduces the paper retention up to about 75% less paper being added. But again, it allows everything to be dealt with digital and feed into multiple different systems in the back end. We're also looking at taking this technology a step further and adding different modules to it now for other non-case related information, such as invoice processing. Just thought we'd cover off a few further enabling technologies. I'd like to say they're probably new technologies, but they've been around for some time now. It just seems to be a little bit more prevalent in the legal sector. The first one is called enterprise search and e-discovery. Content is being created in record numbers. At the moment, it's predicted it's an annual growth 44-fold over the next decade, according to IDC. It's being stored in disconnected places, silos such as file servers, content management systems, and for sure email systems. Enterprise search technology plays a key role in this kind of process and content management strategy. It transforms daily workflows and extends enterprise applications without compromising their integrity. So if you can imagine you're looking for information right across the organisation in these different silos, if you could reduce the process from 15 actions down to, say, something like 6, it takes out a lot of the manual steps, and it helps you gain control and visibility of these documents. It's a solution that leverages the power of search, making sure that your enterprise applications perform well and integrate information presented back to the right people as and when they need the information. So in this age of information, the most effective processes are fueled by the most relevant data. So you need to turn chaotic, unstructured data into organised information that works for you in the context of whatever application you're using or process steps you're performing, or the device that you have at hand. In a hard copy format, we found with our customers that it's very, very difficult in a hard copy environment and with email to monitor what's coming in and be able to analyse that information. The analytics application provides optimised out-of-the-box dashboards, focus on elevating the visibility into the effectiveness of the capture solution. So, for example, are our documents thrown through the firm as they should be? Is there a problem while we're trying to find matter numbers? Who are those? Are there repeat offenders? How long is it taking from the point of capture to being released into a case management system? What's coming in via email? What's coming in via hard copy? For what departments? All this information, once captured electronically, is available to you in near real-time analysis and reporting. And again, that data is easily accessible. It can be reviewed by different people depending on different requirements. A new exciting technology. I don't know, you may have seen it recently in the news. There's more and more information now about RPA, robotic process automation. And there's a number of things that these are being used for, from extracting information to help for data migration from one platform to another. Effectively, the technology mimics the steps of rules-based, non-subjective processes. So it can take manual, repetitive tasks, and you can actually run robots to carry out these tasks much quicker, much more effectively, and give back time to fee earners and other staff alike to be doing it on more productive, revenue-generating activities. We're seeing robotic process automation as one of the largest increases in technology, not just in the legal sector, but all sectors. It's highly topical at the moment, and we'd be more than happy to give you some ideas of how this will fit into the organisation. Okay, so just to conclude, really what we've covered in the last 25 minutes to half an hour, there's a study by Ullman Will which shows where they found significant recognition of commonly discussed problems in the legal sector. The first graphic summarises external pressures on firms, and I know you'll be more than familiar with these, such as the need to automate, the need to maybe give portals to your customers, be more innovative, show security, and just generally the use of new technologies. So this second graphic is a modern set of challenges for firms and what they're going through, and the ability to need to attract new customers. Client retention is obviously a big one. So again, going back to security, when you're onboarding customers, proving that you've got a robust, solid way of capturing their information and making it secure, making sure it doesn't leave the organisation. It's about keeping abreast of changes in regulation and compliance and how you can adapt to those quickly. The good news is that there's people that are already doing this, there's people that we've already gone down this path, and there are solutions that can help address these needs for those that wish to adopt the change. So in essence, Paper-lite is not a nicety anymore, it's becoming more of a necessity. It brings the benefits of full digital file held centrally, speed of access to information, modern practices. It's about also onboarding new staff, showing them that technology is the way forward rather than dealing with paper now. New people coming out of law school now are expecting digitisation for them, and coming into an organisation that's already moving down that route, it should be easier to onboard and maintain those staff. The legal practice as a whole is about profitability, making cases, getting them through the system faster, more effectively, and making them more cost effective. So just to conclude the webinar, I hope, whilst it was brief, I hope you found it to be of some interest, in some way provokes thoughts around how you currently manage processes and how some of these new technologies will help you drive efficiency and compliance and customer service across the firm. So at this point, I'd just like to take the opportunity to thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. I'll hand back to James momentarily just to see if there's any questions that we can help and answer, and obviously then to confirm the winner of the draw for the Legal Forum event next month.
Thank you very much, Dean. Very illuminating. Many thanks. And yes, I'm looking at one question in front of me here. It says, how scalable are these solutions? And then to illustrate in brackets, they put, we don't do outsourcing. So I think we can see where they're coming from there. So how scalable are these solutions?
It's a good question. Thanks for that one. So the solutions are scalable, and I think as a couple of the case studies we just shown there, there's it doesn't just a one size fits all. We've got a smaller law firm that's wanting to start onboarding the digital mailroom and start getting information into their back-end systems as quickly as possible. And then we have a multi-site, much larger law firm that's using the technology to onboard physical documents as well as emails and attachments. They're using integration into multiple back-end systems that they use, and they're also analysing the information as it comes in. So they're also looking now at extending the platforms out, say, for more non-case related information. So it's very modular, very scalable, and again, we've got some very, very large organisations using it as well from a scalability point of view, both not legal and non-legal.
Okay. And there's another question here about not just case management systems, but about HR as well. Can we use capture to process simultaneously to with HR as well? Not quite to do with case management, but
no, absolutely. But obviously, HR is a big function in a firm anyway, and we're predominantly finding in our HR projects that they're very paper-based. They're generally held in filing cabinets. Maybe whilst they might be locked, not very secure. Trying to find access to information. So similar type of principle. It's about getting it in a digital format, making it available for people, centrally held in an electronic file somewhere. So it doesn't matter whether it's an HR process, a case-related process, it could be check processing, invoice processing. It's about capturing information and pushing it into the right places as quickly as possible, but accurately.
And actually, while you've been answering that question, Dean, one more has actually popped in. What typically do you see as the barriers to a firm taking a Paper-lite approach? What barriers are there still?
That's a good question. We actually had a slide about the barriers and the challenges. We took back out again, but there seems to be a number of things really. So it's a bit of a re-education process in some cases. So people moving from paper into digital and how they'll do that. And some people will say that some departments, is a common one that we see, is that add this department or these particular fee earners need a physical paper. So that's another sort of trying to change an attitude. However, with some cases, what we have done is we still capture the information as it comes in, so it's electronic and available in a central matter file or case file. And in some cases, it means that paper does still need to follow through the organisation, for oversized documents, drawings, depending on what area of law you practice. So it's not to say that there's not a place for paper, hence Paper-lite. It's just a case of making the most effective choices of what carries on through the business in hard copy, but everything really should be captured at the point of receipt.
Thank you, Dean. Got another one for you. Have you come across any systems, by which I presume the questioner means case management systems, have you come across any systems that your solution cannot integrate with? You listed a few earlier in that. Anything that we can't do?
No, I mean, pretty much all of our solutions have to integrate with another application to have a benefit. So today's systems, be it the case management systems, are all pretty much open. So it's a case of just working out with the relevant IT teams what format the information can be passed across. So I suppose the answer to that is no to date. Will we? It's unlikely that it will be something that we can't integrate into. A lot of the case management systems we have done already, and again, someone mentioned the previous question, HR. We feed into finance systems, HR applications, CRM alike. So we haven't as yet.
Super, thanks, Dean. Another question has just popped in again. This approach is a major cultural shift for fee earners. So how have you seen this successfully managed? And so I'm just rereading that, making sure I'm putting the emphasis in the right place. So how have you seen it successfully managed in the context of this being a big cultural shift for fee earners?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, and there are a lot of fee earners, and sometimes that seems to be the sticking point. Again, it's traditionally it's been very much hard copy, and how do we change? There's a couple of things that are driving that. There's competition. So people are, other competitive firms are moving down the digital road, and obviously there's a push for them to do that as well. There are, in some cases, it's been a case of we targeted a particular department or process that would lend itself better to digitisation, and it's gone more of a sort of proof of concept. And then once that's worked well within that department or process, it's more of an internal selling process to the other fee earners.
Okay. Right then, thank you very much indeed. If there are any more questions, we're going to draw this to a close. There may be a couple, so we'll keep it open just in case, and we'll try to respond to any other ones that we get. Thanks ever so much for those. I think there may well, in fact, be some, but we're going to return you another couple of minutes. Others questions we'll deal with offline, but to the bit that I'm sure that several of you may well have been waiting for, we've got that VIP pass to the British Legal IT Forum on Tuesday the 14th of March, which is 2 weeks today. My silent partner has been putting all the names of the live attendees in this morning into some random thingamy-bob for me. So can you just click that button for me? And right, John Gardiner. John Gardiner. Hopefully you're still here. I don't know whether we have your number, John. We certainly have your email, so either way we will contact you today. Congratulations, and you've got that pass to the and I hope you can make it on the 14th of March, and maybe you'll pop in and see us on our stand there. So I think it just remains for me to thank Dean for being with us this morning and for presenting our webinar, and thank you all for attending and for listening and for your questions. We have had at least 2 more pop in the meantime, which we'll deal with offline whilst we're taking care of other matters as well. Thank you very much for attending. Whether or not you've got passes or tickets to that event, hopefully maybe we'll see some of you there anyway. Do pop in and say hello, we're very friendly. And with a few minutes returned to you as promised, I wish you all a very good morning to you. Many thanks.